Salesforce earnings and Brett Taylor's departure from the company.
Yeah, I want to talk about the Taylor news. It totally clouded the whole earnings results. The earnings of the company are what they are. It actually beat, and it gave a positive year guidance, and it didn't matter much because when your CEO or co-CEO departs, that's always going to be seen as really negative. Brett Taylor was a good partner to Mark Benioff, but I said this on CNBC, say it again. Brett Taylor is not Mark Benioff. Brett Taylor did a nice job as a second. He was a guy that Mark Benioff had identified as a possible, CEO of the future. Mark has wanted to do more things politically. He's wanted to do more things in the community. And so there's always been a little speculation that he's been trying to find this. It was happened with Keith Block, but let's say that this video has been played once before. Mark Benioff brought in Keith Block, and it did not work out either. Now the question is this a Mark Benioff thing? The stock was the second worst performer on the Dow. It was down 40%. Now it's down more. Not necessarily because of bad results, just because SaaS is out of vogue. And when you're the CEO or the longtime founder of a company and the performance starts to wean a little bit, oftentimes you'll see that person kind of come back into the picture more. Just like Larry Ellison will always be Oracle, Mark Benioff will always be Salesforce, and he can put anyone else in that role, but as long as he's in the company in any capacity, he's always going to be the number one guy. And so for someone like Brett Taylor, who was an entrepreneur, a founder, who came into the company through an acquisition, who meteorically rose into the company and got to the top, he probably realized that he was the co-CEO, but that was as far as it was ever really going to go. So maybe a partnership between someone like a Larry and a Safra can work. I don't know if the partnership with Mark works. Now, Mark clearly liked him. A couple pieces of speculation I'll touch on is one is, there was some speculation that the launches were a little light at Dreamforce, and that kind of created a little bit of pressure on Brett, given the overall market conditions. There were also, obviously, what Brett said himself, that he wants to go back and explore his next entrepreneurial run. The inorganic acquisitions of Salesforce, while I do believe they will pay off long term, have not necessarily fully been realized. That's MuleSoft, that's Tableau, that's Slack. And of course, Quip is the company that came in, that Brett came in with, certainly has not realized its full potential yet. So there's still a lot of opportunity to take all these pieces, this house of brands that have been acquired by Salesforce, and putting them all together to make the most meaningful company, the quote unquote digital headquarters. Microsoft Teams has been a relentless competitor to Salesforce, and Salesforce's whole Salesforce plus Slack has a lot of work to be done if it's going to be a meaningful competitor. So while the company's earnings were actually pretty good, I mean, the growth has slowed. It's like the same speed as IBM now. So this is not a hyper growth company anymore. This is a company that's a very robust enterprise software and part of most large enterprises and even mid-sized enterprises sales organization, and has expanded into service and platforms and marketing and more. But I think right now, and I'm going to pass the baton over to you, Pat, the Brett thing will not be a long-term problem for the company. I wish Brett Taylor good luck. I hope we'll be seeing him soon somewhere else where we talk to him. Mark will step back in. Like I said, this movie's been played before, this record, this song, we've heard it. We'll see it. Mark will get it back running again. And, now the company has to figure out how to grow it even faster.
Yeah, investors want to see 20 to 25% growth out of a quarterly growth on from a company like Salesforce. And that's actually what they delivered for a long time, and they came in at 14%, which, by the way, I want to reinforce met expectations, right? And if I look at just the years, I mean, they nail it on the revenue side. Where they typically shine is on the profit side, and they beat on profits by 14.5%, which again, you look historically, is very well aligned with what they did before. So part of this is a market challenge. Their forecast was very light, and they also had the double witching of Brett living. And listen, the the talking point out of the company was that Brett wants to go back and hit his entrepreneurial roots. I do believe this, and I understand this. Trust me, I slogged it out for over 20 years in Fortune 100 tech companies, and there's just something special about going in and doing a startup, doing something smaller, and going for stratospheric growth.
Couldn't agree more.
I'm going to be very consistent too. If you look at my other analysis, I would like to see how the company can drive or organic growth in there. Acquisitions are strategically important. I think at least one out of the three acquisitions is absolutely paying off. I'm also very happy to see some of the lift from customer 360. That was I think the real standout that came out from the earnings announcement. So dialing back, Salesforce is a required asset or a required service in some way, shape, or form if you are in the enterprise. It's building its stack to compete better with the Googles, the Microsofts of the world. Heck, we've even seen Zoom building their own stack, and not referring to a vertical stack, but more of an end-to-end stack that goes all the way from messaging all the way to the back end with core services that are more operational. So I am looking forward to the company's. They have an analyst event coming up in 2 weeks. I am going to be checking in. I'm going to be there with bells, and I'm going to be spending a lot more time digging into what the company can provide, how it's unique, and be weighing in on what changes I think it needs to make.